Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Oluwatife, and presenting with me today are my group members, and they are Bandana, Bupinda, Eno, Nisha, and Vivian. And today we'll be talking about Meaningful Job, Meaningful Life program, just to do with intellectual disability. So before we continue, I'd like to do the acknowledgement of country. And we would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today, the First Nation people, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander of the Australia, and pay our respects to elders past and present. Next slide, please. Next slide. So before we continue, I'd like to ask us these questions, and we don't necessarily have to answer. So have you ever worked for a company that employs people living with intellectual disability? Have you ever had a coworker with intellectual disability? If yes, how did you relate with them? So the next speaker, which is Vivian, she'll take us on, she'll be talking to us about the statistics. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. So we're going to be talking about unemployment among people with intellectual disability. And statistically, people with intellectual disability aged between 15 and 64 years old are twice as likely to be unemployed than a person without disability. Unemployed percentage among people with disability has increased 80% in the last years, and among people without disability has not increased at all. And also, 1 in 2 people with disability aged 5 years or more have a schooling or employment restriction. Let's stop for a moment and thinking about the structural causes and consequences that creates undereducation and unemployment among people with disability. So undereducation is created by shelter settings, lack of family support, and special schooling. So it's lacking of inclusion here. And unemployment is caused by lack of skills, limited support services, limited job opportunities, lack of confidence and motivation, and they are not considered as an option for open market opportunities. So we work for this agency. Unique Path Agency is a non-governmental organization, and we aim to support people with intellectual disability and enhance the quality of life. We create a lot of educational and employment programs. So our main value is to believe that every single person is unique and talented and able to work in a meaningful job. So the agency's mission is to promote inclusion and advocate for people with disability. And also we are partnership with different bodies, government organization, community centers, non-government organization, tertiary institutions, states, local school, families, and individuals. Here we have an inspiring story of success. So this young man is João. He's only 12 years old and he's a plastic artist. So he lives with autism spectrum disorder, but this is not stopping him to live his life fully. So João, he likes painting, and his painting is so inspiring that he was able to show his work at one of the famous museums across the world, the Louvre. And yeah, so this is one example that everyone can show their talents if they are raised and educated in the right way. So to close the gap, we need to offer tailored services. So researchers has pointed that many challenges in finding and maintaining work for people with disability are that these people, when they look for help, they just have help from the services helping finding an advertising job, not really trying to match the job with the skills of the person. And also these services does not help to improve any skill and talents. When they are at work, they feel underestimated by co-workers, they feel discriminated by poor tasks assigned to them, and they also feel very discriminated because they offer to them always meaningless options of work, including casual, short-term jobs, jobs with high turnover, for example, jobs without any chance of improving their career path. So now my friend is going to talk about the project concept design.
Thank you, Vivian. Hello, everyone. My name is Rupinder, and I'm going to talk about the aims and objectives of our project, in which the first one would be to provide a brief illustration of barriers and challenges faced by the person with intellectual disabilities. These are lack of appropriate or no-way read material to support the person, inequitable services, lack of understanding, insufficient allowance of time, and complex systems. There is a video that we left the link in the chat in which the video talk about the hurdles that people are facing, especially people who are dealing with intellectual disability. Next is to empower and educate person with intellectual disability. That comes with activities of daily living, extracurricular activities, social activities, vocational and employment activities, independent living skills, and community integration. An education plan is also supported by various services, counseling services, medical services, orientation and mobility services, social work services in schools. Next slide, please. To discuss the impact of systematic factors in which the stigma of intellectual employees doesn't allow them to feel free in the environment. Discrimination in the role and responsibilities make them demotivated, especially their work experience as well, because they are executed from the critical job. Next is to assess varied options through improving employment rate, having early experience to develop a view or vision of oneself as a worker, expectation and support of family and friends, effective transition support, completing secondary school, individualized placement and support, mentoring to support employment. Next slide, please. To recommend strategies for training, to increase the job efficiency for people with intellectual disability, awareness training to exclude discrimination from the selection and training process within an organization. Advocacy for prior funding should require to allot within an organization that in case of emergency of infrastructural change, that one can be used with assist with the person with intellectual disability. Next is a job recruitment facility. The recent government is also recommended to perform the pace of growth among employees with intellectual disability. Next is to provide social support to person with intellectual disability, in which the major sources of social support are parents, family, friends, teachers, and coaches. Parents are source of both instrumental and emotional support. Instrumental support comes with helping with homework and resolving school issues, whereas emotional support comes with being confident about their child to express emotions of the day, and friends to whom they can confide with, they can talk with, and they can have fun with. Next is environment of the workplace. There should be inclusive culture where people with intellectual disability are valued. Sincere efforts to promote person with intellectual disability becomes entrenched in the organization. Next is awareness about the disability inclusion should be ongoing, should challenge stereotypes, and should showcase disability as just another form of diversity, minimizing the disability barriers, flexible working hours, accessible facilities where people with intellectual disabilities feel safe to disclose about themselves, make job posting attractive and accessible to persons with intellectual disability. Now I would like to invite Blessing to take over. Thank you.
Thank you, Bupinda. So today I'll be talking about the roles allocated during this project. So the first thing we did was we met with a disability organization. The meeting was via Zoom, where we discussed the project extensively. and what we're looking to achieve, which is to ensure that people with intellectual disability are not unemployed because of the fact that because of their disability. So we also scheduled a meeting where we asked what they have in place and what their recruiting process is like. We asked about their success rate, the barriers or challenges they have faced in the past with people with intellectual disability recruitment. We got to know that there's an error in the recruitment process, which is why there are less success rates. And what is this error? Is the fact that on the recruiting team, there is no professional that understand the struggles of and the struggles and the strength of people with intellectual disability. The very interesting thing that happened during this meeting and the process of meeting them was that they actually took our feedback into they took it in a very positive manner, and they actually employed a professional who joined their recruiting team. So this shows that we made an impact, even if it's not for immediately, but on the long run. Next slide, please. Also, we sought partnership with educational and vocational bodies. We realized that when considering more successful stories and positive impacts, we emphasized that because people with intellectual disability have their strengths, it is important that we help them discover that, nurture it, and then that will boost their confidence and help them stay longer and have very meaningful and satisfied career. We sought out tips and shared our ideas on vocations that can help them find their strengths. Also, for those already in the job application process, we went through their resumes, we modified it by focusing more on their strengths. And the last thing we did was advocacy. We empowered people with intellectual disability by giving them the necessary information they need and helping them to understand their rights as a person and how to be heard in situations that concern them. Thank you. So the next speaker today is Bandana, and she'll be explaining to us the strategies that we used during this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Blessing. Hello, everyone. This is me, Bandana. I'm going to talk about the strategies which we applied on our project. There are a growing number of open employments all around the world to promote economic and social inclusion of a person with a disability. Here are some strategies we implemented on our project and to assist people with intellectual disability in the workplace environment. First of all, I'm going to talk about the first strategy, which is training of the human resource management recruiting system. Employers find it difficult while hire people with impairments due to a general lack of managerial assistance. A business attitude of people with disabilities have been revealed, and it has been discovered that employers do not utilize a proactive approach in the recruitment of people with disabilities because they are concerned about their ability to perform. In this case, our team found that it is our responsibility to provide disability awareness training to all recruiting systems to eliminate discrimination against disabled persons. The second strategy is advocacy for funding. After we hired people with a disability, they all needed additional services on a regular basis to keep their job. Through the advocacy, we provided temporary support to address the problem. We were ready for assistance for the disabled employee for adjusting to the changes. We also concern on other circumstances. For example, if a person with a disability needs a change over, we were ready for more support, which need to be fitted. Next slide, please. The third one is a local government role for regular support. Um, it is very important to provide mainstream and targeted services, support and infrastructure system to people with intellectual uh, disability on the regular basis, to encourage them to be more productive in their job. Thus, we cooperated with local government to be responsible for making reasonable adjustment to assist people with intellectual disability, that will support them to easy access, and use those services and system to improve themselves. Now I have done this part, and I'm going to hand over the next part to Nisha, and she will talk about social work theories in regard of our project. Thank you.
Thank you, Bandana. Now I'm going to talk about one of the theories that we have chosen for our project. That is asset-based theory. It is one of the theories that helped to build our project. Here in asset-based theory, the asset refers to the skills or strength of an individual, group, or a community. This theory can be defined as things which can prompt an individual, group, and community towards the goal of their life by identifying and mobilizing their existing strength. We have listed some of the characteristics of asset-based theory. The first one is this theory usually helps the person to find their strength or the things that they are interested in rather than their weakness or things they don't want to do. Secondly, it helps to provide empowerment and helps the participants to make their own decision. Thirdly, it creates bond and network within or outside the community with the group who have ability to provide employment opportunities or someone who has connection or knowledge about it. Lastly, it helps the internal creativity to explore control and the power are valued and emphasized. So the question raises why asset-based theory? It's because it focuses more on the skills, abilities, and social resources of people and their communities rather than what they are lacking. Individuals, group, communities coming together to make realization, appreciation, and develop the strength. It also builds self-esteem of the people and it promotes the long-term relationships. Next slide, please. How does the asset-based theory works? We have strategies of asset-based theory. One of the strategy is bridging social relationships and another is bonding social. Bridging social relation is performed by linking individuals or organizations to those outside the local community who may not know each other but may share common interests or be willing to share of available opportunities. Bonding social relations is all about linking individuals who know each other are subsequently eliminated or transformed into strengths and assets. Here are the things we did to bond and bridge the social relationships among the individuals, group, and communities. The stories collected the people sharing common stories, charted the capacities and skills of the people, mediated to connect and build the relations, created vision and plan, applied of skills, and secured employment opportunities. Now I would like to hand it over to Ino and she will talk furthermore about other theories.
Hi, everybody. So I'm talking about human rights theory. We all know that every individual is entitled to rights as human beings. So people with intellectual disability are not left out. They have equal opportunity to work. So this theory actually seeks to protect the core interests and needs of an individual, and it promotes policy and social change. Policy should be put in place for social change. It should be reflected in our laws and adhere to making people with intellectual disability employable. Not only that, there should be effective measures to ensure the equal right of people with disability to work, including support for reasonable adjustment to be made to the work environment. And they should have the right to post-secondary schools. Young people with disability will want to attend post-secondary school and will like to have skills to gain employment, just like people without disability. But their families, the relevant professionals or schools have not yet appreciated the fact that students with intellectual disability can actually work or even understand what is going on in the school. And for instance, there's this there's this vocational educational and training. It's a way of improving employment for people with intellectual disability. And there should be social justice, which is social justice. These people should have the right to work. Everybody has the right to work. Next slide, please. Career construction theory is another theory. This is a useful tool for explaining the career path for people with intellectual disability in the workspace, considering we have to consider their occupational behavior, their life experiences, their patterns of working, and even the way they can cope when learning. So career construction theory is just their traits, their characteristics, and the resources and materials that have been put in place or available, and these things will determine what they can do. So we have to view clients from their different individual traits, development tasks, and coping strategies. So here is a video of a man who is autistic, and we can see that we will see that he is competent with what he is doing. Not only that, it shows that the work environment is great, and this alone can enhance his career. So we can watch the video.
It's a consulting technology management firm, and I work in the distribution as a distribution clerk. My responsibilities on the job is to ensure that the employees get their packages and their mail.
The most important thing that David brings to the distribution center is a good, honest work ethic.
David is charming. He's highly engaged.
David, like every employee, brings a wonderful entrepreneurial spirit to Booz Allen. Very enthusiastic about what he does, very competent in how he does his job, and is a good role model for the rest of the employees across the company.
At first, it was a challenge. I didn't know what to expect, but once I get the hang of it, I was making strides in the work that I do.
When David first started with us, I think a key element to the success was to have someone who would serve as a day-to-day mentor for David, and then also to have a manager who knew what the elements of the job were and what David would need to be successful in that role.
We set up a routine and we gave him those duties over and over and over until he got used to them. And then after that, we were able to trust David to do anything he could do. He went on his own and he just flourished.
Being David's mentor was kind of new to me, but just being around him and just dealing with him on day to day, it just was a perfect match.
I can joke around with him. You know, whatever he asks me to do, I can do it. And sometimes if I have problems with it, he doesn't mind helping me.
He worked real hard to help me to understand his needs, and I worked real hard to get the staff to understand the needs that we also have to provide for him.
The best thing about this team that I could say for me is very much being interactive and being social with people.
David fits in our community here at Booz Allen perfectly, seamlessly. He's very well accepted. I don't think people think twice, about who David is and why he's here. And David has friends. I think he's got everything that most of us would expect from our work environment.
Working with David has been a very, very rewarding experience to me. You've helped develop a person who is going to be a positive part of the society.
Providing David or any individual with a disability a career at Booz Allen offers them a chance to really improve their self-worth, have a feeling that they're earning a living, adding value to an employer, to the community.
Now I really feel if he left this place, he could work any place else.
It would be a shame to leave people like David out of the workforce.
A career sums it up than just having a job. It's not just getting a paycheck and go. It's something very rewarding for me, something that I will hold on to, something that I'm proud of.
So in this video, we can see that David was given a chance to work, and the workspace where he was actually very comfortable for him. Everybody was willing to teach him, and he was willing to learn. So next slide. Now we're talking about the system theory. So system theory is just in social work is based on the fact that behavior is influenced by a variety of factors that work together as a system. These factors could include family, social settings, workplace, and others. So these systems helps to identify the different points of problems that need to be targeted and where changes in the system should be effected. And it's also a social construct. Like social construct is the fact that this system, people like these factors, the people now that see people with working with people with intellectual disability or have people with intellectual disability as a family member, they see what the system should look like instead of what the system can do to solve the problem of those people in need. So what we have created in our society on who and how people with disability are really matters. Instead of looking at their impairment, we should rather look at the ability or look at their ability. So disability emerges as an effect of the obstacles society raise, not as a result of their ability. Society have low expectation for people with disability. So when we're intervening with people or intervening for people with disability, right, we need to understand that we should focus on them and not their situation. This can help re-examine the problem to be solved and utilize the individual strengths and resources instead of focusing on their problem. So in this case, now we see that the target people we're looking at are those with intellectual disability, and the problem they face is not their impairment, but their inability to be accepted by employers or good workspace for them. And the solution now is to include those with intellectual disability in a regulated and functional workforce. Next slide, please. So in order to bring policy and social change in the system, frontline workers or social workers will have to develop these skills. Blessing talked about advocacy, and empowerment. These are the skills that we used when working in this project. Now I will talk about counseling and negotiation. Counseling people or employers and agencies in communities to change their attitudes towards working with those with mental disorder is very important. And then when it comes to negotiating with government, agencies, companies, health and welfare workers in influencing their stand and adjusting the policy to suit people with intellectual disability is important. Now, talking about this diagram here, we can see that people with disability are those in the inner circle. They face discriminations, they are stigmatized, they are labeled, they are stereotyped. Now, these arrows facing the bigger circle now are the people that are causing this discrimination, this stigmatization and everything that people with intellectual disability go through. So if only we can, if only there's advocacy skills, there's advocacy skills, there are other skills that we can embrace. These things will not be like that. So within the community, a person with disability can participate in the society depending on how the society responds to disability. So if these people around respond to disability in a different way, then there will not be societal construct on who people with disability, intellectual disability should do. Instead, it's what they can do and how they can do it that matters. Thank you. Next slide. Next slide.
Already changed. Can you see his skills?
Yeah, I've talked about the skills. We've talked about the skills, yes. Then the quiz now. So for the quiz, it's always obvious if someone has an intellectual disability, true or false. And these are questions that we're going to answer. Everybody will answer, and to know if you understood what we talked about, the meaningful life people should live, even including people with intellectual disability. And they are, people with intellectual disability are a liability in the workplace, true or false. Most people with intellectual disability cannot work because of communication skills, true or false. Then the words stupid and daft are harmless words to use, true or false. It is okay to pretend to understand a person with intellectual disability so that they feel bad, true or false. So those are the questions. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.